Welcome to the debate. Our focus today is on the seismic shift in the Western Conference following that stunning deal. The source material calls it an impossible comeback, and it saw the Los Angeles Lakers get Luka Doncic from the Dallas Mavericks for Anthony Davis, a move that seems to have immediately validated everything the Lakers were hoping for.
A truly shocking deal is right. I don't think anyone saw it coming, and it immediately put the Lakers under this intense spotlight.
Exactly. So the central question for us is this. Is the Lakers' current undeniable dominance, we're talking their 14th victory, the third best record, and just overwhelming control against the very team they traded with, is this definitive proof that they have instantly become the league's preeminent championship-bound force? I'm going to argue that yes, the Lakers have established a sustainable, competence-driven championship style that's now dictating the pace of the West.
And I'm going to have to challenge that interpretation. While the results on the scoreboard are, they're impressive, I'll argue their success right now is highly situational. It risks masking some serious long-term structural flaws, and really, it's primarily a function of the Mavericks' catastrophic organizational implosion. So for me, the Lakers' true dominance, it remains thoroughly unproven against stable, elite competition.
Look, the evidence for the Lakers operating with internal control is it's overwhelming. This isn't just a new roster. This is a team that has profoundly evolved under coach J.J. Reich. They've moved entirely from reacting to dictating the pace of play. And Reich's philosophy, centered on discipline, communication, effort, execution, that's not just coach speak. It has created a verifiable, legitimate winning system. The numbers, they speak for themselves about competence. 14th victory in the bag, holding the third best record in the league, and they just secured their spot in the NBA Cup knockout stages with a decisive run of over 6 consecutive wins. That sustained performance against different kinds of opponents, it demonstrates system success.
I see the statistical validation, I do. But let's consider the context of how that success is being measured. The trade was immediately successful because Luka Doncic is a generational talent, yes. But the synergy you're talking about is being displayed while their direct rival is fundamentally broken. We have to look at the specific evidence of that rout against Dallas, a 129-19 margin. Luka's 35-point gala night and Austin Reeves' spectacular 38-point performance, the guy Dallas couldn't even get back in the trade. It happened in a game that felt more like an emotional release against a team that was already spiraling. That scoreline isn't typical of two professional teams facing off. It's characteristic of a total organizational meltdown.
But that's my point. That ability to seize the moment, to execute perfectly when an opponent is vulnerable, that is the definition of a competent elite team. The Lakers understood the high-value proposition of getting Doncic, and it delivered exactly what they needed right away. Synergistic offensive potential. Coach Reich wasn't talking about luck when he said the team's offensive understanding is light years ahead of where it was. This isn't just individual talent, it's the rhythm of a team that fully expects to win, and that plays with the maturity and control needed for a championship run. They are commanding respect through execution.
That's a compelling argument for their internal belief structure. But the narrative of Lakers' dominance is still, for me, significantly inflated by the external context, the instability of their rival. The source material is very specific. Dallas is deep in an identity crisis. They traded a gem in Doncic for an injury-prone, heavy veteran in Anthony Davis. And the consequences? They were instant and organizational. The executive who made that disastrous deal, Nico Harrison, was fired weeks before the Lakers even took the court against them. So the Lakers aren't just capitalizing on a rival's bad night. They're feasting on a rival's complete organizational collapse. The true test of competence comes when your internal system faces an equally stable, high-functioning external system, which Dallas right now just is not.
Okay, even granting the turmoil in Dallas, let's drill down into the tactical application here. The Lakers' new offensive core, because this is where the sustainability really lies. Doncic and Reeves are the engine. Reeves' 38 points were described as an offensive hurricane, and Luka played with that characteristic calm of someone who has always played this game. This isn't just hyperbole. It represents a sustainable, multifaceted offense that opponents fundamentally struggle to stop. Doncic's gravity, now in this system, it immediately shifts the whole defensive focus. He draws 2-3 defenders on the perimeter, creating drive and kick opportunities that they never existed before. This is why the team remains unfazed when opponents react. They have multiple counter moves, letting them dictate the tempo and avoid that ISO-heavy offense that plagued them in the past.
Yeah, but I have to challenge that idea of sustainability by pivoting back to the indispensable, if quiet, variable of LeBron James. While 35 and 38 points are staggering stats, Luka himself admitted that facing the Mavericks was different because of the history and his friends on the other bench. This was a highly emotional game that maybe unlocked a level of focus and aggression that, well, that may not translate to the standard cold-blooded execution you need for a full playoff run against, say, Boston or Denver. And furthermore, regardless of the stats from Doncic and Reeves, the source material explicitly highlights the essential role of a 40-year-old LeBron. He provides the balance, the guide, whose wisdom still composes the game. That dependency on a 40-year-old to be the emotional and tactical anchor, no matter how great he is, that introduces a structural instability.
The system may appear light years ahead, but if it relies on the healthy maintenance of an athlete at that age, the risk calculation is significantly higher.
That's an interesting point about LeBron's role, though. I would actually frame his contribution as proof of competence, not as a structural weakness. The fact that the coaching staff has successfully integrated him, shifting his role from primary scorer to primary facilitator and defensive anchor, maximizing his IQ while mitigating his physical load, that demonstrates high organizational competence. The system is designed to allow LeBron to be the balance, while Doncic handles the primary scoring gravity. The ability to dictate pace, correct turnovers, close the defense, and execute without panic, as Coach JJ described, that is the hallmark of a real team, no matter who's providing the wisdom. The Lakers understand the value of each piece, from young explosives like Reeves to the experience of James. When Reeves says, "When opponents rock, we don't fall," this shows an internal, systemic resilience that's totally independent of external luck. They command respect and demand results through execution, not just riding a superstar's hot hand.
I'm just not convinced that execution against the Mavericks proves true internal resilience. I mean, internal resilience is easy to demonstrate when your direct rival is described as having imploded. Let's look at the mechanism of that chaos. Harrison being fired, that signaled a complete lack of faith in the prior administration. It likely induced institutional fear and confusion among the players. That translates directly to poor on-court communication, lack of commitment to defensive rotations, and an inability to execute complex late-game sets. The Lakers' victory wasn't just deserved, it was, frankly, inevitable, given the state of the Mavericks. The real test of their posture and cold blood is the upcoming game against the San Antonio Spurs. That is a disciplined, structured, and methodologically sound organization under proven leadership. The Lakers need to prove their rhythm against the team that hasn't suffered a catastrophic collapse. Until then, their dominance is just a factor of Dallas's chaos.
But let's turn to the core strategic decision, the trade itself, because that defines the long-term vision. The trade was absolutely necessary because Anthony Davis was precisely that, a heavy veteran loaded with injuries and a history of ups and downs. He represented a structural risk and, more importantly, a cap on their potential. Keeping him meant remaining a reactive team. The Lakers made a cold, rational, aggressive decision. They understood the value of commanding respect and aiming for the championship apex, and getting Doncic instantly achieved that. We have to view the cost as acceptable because the player they gave up represented a high risk of long-term injury and past systemic trauma. This move fundamentally shifted their trajectory and established the Lakers as an organization with a clear, forward-looking plan.
That's a compelling argument for the necessity of taking a strategic risk. I'll grant you that. But have you fully considered the implications for roster building and, crucially, for their defensive identity in the playoffs? Davis was once the purple and gold hero, and trading an all-star caliber big man, even one with a history of injuries, creates an exploitable void in the playoffs that Doncic's offense, however potent, might not fully compensate for. The source material notes the current team is fluid and harmonious, focusing on their offensive revolution. Right, but championships are built on defense and interior presence. When we look at structural defense, Davis provided elite rim protection and could guard multiple positions. Without him, the Lakers have fundamentally changed their defensive identity from a grinded-out, interior-focused system to a high-volume switching small-ball perimeter scheme. So the question then becomes, if they face a team designed specifically to exploit that defensive void, a team with a dominant back-to-the-basket center, or a disciplined team that racks up paint points, will the current offensive normality hold? We haven't seen them challenged by teams that methodically attack the interior. This structural risk, the gamble that Doncic's offense can consistently outpace opponents who exploit that defensive interior, is substantial. The immediate reward is dazzling, but the high variance inherent in this roster structure, it remains a ticking clock.
While the defensive adjustment is real, and yes, the loss of elite rim protection is noted, the offensive power doesn't just compensate, it fundamentally changes the nature of the defensive game plan required by opponents. When Doncic is on the floor, the pressure shifts entirely to the opponent's transition defense and perimeter containment. This prevents the opponent from setting up their methodical interior attacks consistently. Coach Reich's system, they bet on offensive explosion and control, and so far, that bet is paying off.
And I must insist that managing the shift effectively against a team experiencing an internal meltdown is a different metric than managing it against a cohesive title contender. Your argument relies on the assumption that offensive control universally trumps defensive structure. History suggests that in the highest pressure moments of the playoffs, when possessions slow down, teams revert to their core defensive principles. If the Lakers' core principle is now high-variance perimeter switching, they are structurally vulnerable to teams that can successfully crash the offensive glass and dominate the paint metrics we haven't yet fully tested them on post-trade. The risk was assumed, and until they pass that critical test, we just cannot definitively label them a championship-bound force.
In the end, the Lakers are operating with genuine strategic control, competence, and a clear, aggressive plan that targets the highest tier of success. The instantaneous shift in offensive understanding, combined with the successful execution of a massive, franchise-altering trade, confirms they are playing a championship style and are actively dictating the pace of the league. They have fundamentally changed their trajectory and their potential ceiling.
I agree that the Lakers appear formidable, and yes, they've played brilliantly. However, the immediate narrative of absolute dominance is, for me, clouded by the catastrophic collapse of the Mavericks organization, which inflated the immediate success metrics. The true measure of the Lakers' sustainability and structural soundness rests on how they perform under genuine, stable pressure. Their success must prove itself fully independent of their former trade partners' chaos before we can crown them the league's preeminent, championship-bound force.
The source material provides a fascinating snapshot of immediate strategic success pitted against deep organizational instability. It's a powerful contrast in how elite organizations navigate change.
It is, and it reminds us that assessing a team's true long-term trajectory requires critically considering both demonstrated internal competence and the external, often chaotic factors of their competition. There is much more to explore here regarding Davis's role in Dallas and what this Lakers team really looks like when the pressure of the playoffs hits.
Thank you.
Thank you.